The 3 Pure Land blessings in the Avadamsaka Sutra teach us at the very beginning to respect our parents and serve our teachers. People in the past understood, so what is the most important thing for parents to teach their children? Respect teachers and honor the elderly. He doesn't teach anything else. The first important lesson teachers teach students is, be filial to your parents. Therefore, if a child receives this education from a young age, it will become like nature. It will be instilled and taught from a young age, and it will be deeply rooted in his heart and his alaya consciousness and will never change. He will then be able to fulfill his filial piety. Filial piety encompasses all worldly and transcendental laws, which cannot be explained in detail here. Being filial to parents and friendly to brothers at home is fraternal love. Being able to serve the country is loyalty. Therefore, among the 8 virtues, filial piety, fraternal love, loyalty, trustworthiness, courtesy, righteousness, honesty, and shame, filial piety is the foundation, and the other 7 are filial piety manifested in different things. The names given to them are actually the word filial piety. In Buddhism, the 3 studies, 4 means of accomplishment, and 6 pramithas, as well as countless other methods, all come down to one word, filial piety. The correct dharma in this world and beyond is definitely built on the foundation of filial piety. When a temple is established for people to practice together, why should the first sutra they talk about be the Sutra of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva? The hardware facilities of the temple have been established. After that, we have obtained the hardware and need to build the software in this place, which is the psychological construction. If the heart is right, then the actions will be right. This is in accordance with the Tao, in accordance with the nature of the mind, and in accordance with the truth of the universe and life. The special and extraordinary thing about the Sutra of the Past Vows of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva is that filial piety starts with saving the mother. The closest person to a person in the world is the mother, and the father is second only to her. When a baby is born, he or she stays in the arms of his or her mother all the time and is cared for and looked after by the mother. The mother's kindness is incomparable, so when we talk about filial piety, the first parent to be considered is the mother. In this sutra we see Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva is the person who practices the Ksitigarbha Dharma. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva is not a single person. Anyone who practices filial piety and respects teachers is Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Anyone who practices compassion and saves all sentient beings from suffering is Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva. We must understand this meaning. We must complete all the qualities of a bodhisattva in this lifetime to achieve Buddhahood. This is the true meaning of vow to learn the infinite Dharma. We should learn the filial piety of Ksitigarbha, the compassion of Guanyin, and the wisdom of Manjushri. Now we are talking about rationality, and we should learn the practicality of Samantabhadra Bodhisattva. This is not about possessing the 4 great bodhisattvas in one body. If the 4 great bodhisattvas are further divided, they are the infinite and boundless bodhisattvas. This is called learning the infinite Dharma and making infinite vows. From this you can understand what is said in the Huayan Sutra and the Pure Land Sutras, that one is everything, that one method definitely includes all methods. Ksitigarbha is filial. And filial piety certainly contains compassion and rationality. If filial piety is implemented, Ksitigarbha will possess Guanyin, Manjushri, and Samantabhadra. Isn't that all of them? When Samantabhadra Bodhisattva practices, his practice must include filial piety, compassion, and wisdom. This means that he is not only a bodhisattva, but also possesses all the qualities of a bodhisattva. That is why I tell you that one is everything and everything is one. All dharmas are harmonious and unobstructed. Only then can you truly understand the inconceivable nature of Buddhism. So here we see that he is doing this for his mother, which is more heartfelt than anything else. Teach us how to develop filial piety. Mother. Our mother has done us such a great favor that we will never forget her no matter where we are or what time it is. We should always keep it in mind and in order to repay our mother's kindness. Not only should we not do anything wrong, we should not even have any evil thoughts. Why? I'm sorry, Mom. This is not what you expect for your children. Holding a sacrifice ceremony every year is to promote and expand filial piety. The purpose is here and it is altruistic. Avoid evil and cultivate good at all times. This is what our filial piety to our mother requires us to do. Just imagine how powerful filial piety is. It drives us to make unremitting progress on the path to Bodhi. Filial piety to mother reminds us of our teachers. Without teachers, how could we understand filial piety? Therefore, the kindness of teachers should not be forgotten. The 4 words, know the kindness and repay the kindness, mentioned by Mr. Pooh were spoken by the Buddha in the Great Prajna Sutra. They are the method of practice for bodhisattvas in the 2nd stage. The 2nd level bodhisattvas mentioned in the Great Prajna Sutra have 8 main subjects to practice. And knowing and repaying kindness is one of them. It is especially worth promoting in this era. There are many ungrateful people in today's society. Ingratitude is a crime, a fault, and a retribution for suffering. Knowing and repaying kindness is the right practice, the practice of a bodhisattva, and the retribution is a happy one. They are different. Whatever mistakes people make in today's society, we should provide them with guidance and help based on their mistakes. This is the right thing to do. It is because of the mother's bodhisattva's intention, which is so kind. Such teaching makes us realize that the Tathagata has high wisdom, perfect wisdom, and extremely skillful means that have reached the highest level. When we hear and touch them, we cannot help but believe and learn. All good dharmas and all good deeds are derived from being filial to one's mother and saving one's mother. This is truly the root. The more extraordinary our righteous conduct and achievements on the Bodhi path, the more complete our filial piety towards our mother will be. Therefore, I often say that there is only one person who can achieve ultimate perfection in filial piety and become a Buddha. The Buddhahood of the perfect teaching reaches ultimate perfection. The Bodhisattva of equal enlightenment still has one level of ignorance of the nature of life to break, and is still lacking one point in filial piety. Why do we want to save all sentient beings? Why should we resolve to eliminate afflictions? Why should we resolve to learn the Dharma and attain Buddhahood? To repay mother's kindness. If we don't do this, we will be sorry to our parents, especially our mothers. The Tathagata's orthodox Dharma is established on this foundation, so the 4 great vows are the common vows and original vows of all Buddhas. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva has an incomparable compassion for suffering sentient beings. The more suffering sentient beings endure, the greater the Bodhisattva's compassion, so the sutras call him the eternal lord of the underworld. The netherworld is hell, and the Bodhisattva's vow is I will not attain Buddhahood until hell is empty, which shows the extreme compassion. Most people don't want to go to hell, a place of suffering. But he goes where others are unwilling to go, and he is willing to endure the suffering that others are unwilling to endure. In hell, you must manifest a body of the same kind as hell. If you don't manifest a body of the same kind as hell, how can you teach sentient beings? We must cultivate similar actions. Bodhisattvas must manifest the same sufferings that the beings in hell endure, without any exceptions. Only in this way can we influence the beings in hell to awaken, repent, and turn back. Therefore, to endure hardships and difficulties and to be extremely compassionate is the original wish of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Those of us who have just started to practice Mahayana Buddhism should learn from Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. I gave you a hint yesterday that another meaning of netherworld is humility, which means always being below others, earnestly studying and teaching sentient beings, dedicating all fame, wealth, and other enjoyments to others, and always being in a lower position. This is the meaning of netherworld. This is the end of the introduction to the other titles of the sutra. There is a word jing at the end. Jing is a general term. We respectfully call all the dharmas spoken by the Buddhas sutras. This name is in line with Chinese custom. Before Buddhism came to China, the Chinese referred to the teachings of ancient sages as scriptures. For example, Confucianism has the 13 classics, Taoism Lao Tzu respectfully calls it the Tao Te Ching, and Zhuangzi respectfully calls it the Nanhua Jing. These are the names used to refer to the teachings of ancient sages. After Buddhism was introduced to China, the Chinese people respected it and also called it a classic. According to the explanation in the scriptures, the original Sanskrit word is called sutra. The original meaning of sutra is thread, because Buddhist scriptures were written on palm leaves in the past. After writing, holes were punched on both sides and the scriptures were strung together with ropes, so it was called thread. Chinese people do not respect this line, they call it jing. In the sutras, there are usually 5 meanings. The first one means gushing spring, like spring water bubbling out from the ground. This is to express the infinite meaning of what the Buddha said. We can now say that it is very attractive, and the more we read it, the more interesting it becomes. It is unlike the writings of worldly people. If you read newspapers or magazines, after reading them once you won't want to read them a second time. Why? The taste is gone after one time. It is very light and not strong. Everyone likes to watch and read good literary works in the world, but if you read it 10, 20, or 30 times, you will no longer want to read it. The flavor of this work is much stronger than that of newspapers and magazines, and it can keep you reading it 10 or even dozens of times. But classics are different. The taste of classics will never fade. We can make a comparison. Among the famous literary works in China, there are 4 great novels: Journey to the West, Water Margin, Romance of the Three Kingdoms, and Dream of the Red Chamber. These are the 4 famous literary novels in China. How many times can you read them? After watching it 10 or 20 times, I don't want to watch it anymore. Let me tell you, I have watched it more than 10 or 20 times when I was a student. It's such a big book, and I tell you, my classmates, it will take me no more than a week to read it from beginning to end. I started reading Chinese classical literary novels in the 4th grade of elementary school, but I stopped after the first year of junior high school because it was no longer interesting. But the 4 books, 5 classics, and ancient Chinese literature are still interesting to you even when you read them from elementary school until your beard turns white. They are different and full of meaning. The flavor of Buddhist scriptures is even stronger. If you can enter into the Buddha's Mahayana Sutras, you will no longer want to read worldly scriptures. When I first started learning psychology, I was very interested in it and found a lot of famous Chinese and foreign psychology books, but I didn't finish reading them. Later, I came into contact with Buddhism and its Dharma nature and consciousness-only theory. When I compared all the psychology in the world with it, I found that there was a huge gap. The flavor of Buddhism is strong, gushing out like a spring. The second meaning is birth, which can give birth to all subtle and good dharmas. Therefore, after reading the Buddhist scriptures, your heart will be good, and your actions will be good naturally, which will bring out your innate virtues. This goodness cannot be learned. The third meaning is rope and plumb line. In modern terms, rope and plumb line is a standard for determining truth and falsehood, right and wrong, good and evil, benefits and harms. The plumb line is a metaphor. It is still used in China today. Carpenters use a plumb line to draw a black line when sawing wood, and then follow the saw. Westerners no longer use this thing. It means standard. The fourth meaning is display, which can show the truth. The fifth meaning is garland, which runs through all the dharmas. In our current terms, it is classification and analysis, or the study of chapters and sentences. Its textual organization is consistent from beginning to end and is well organized. This is the meaning. The text has a rigorous structure and its ideological system is very clear. Sutra has these 5 meanings. There are many meanings, like Master Qingliang talked about 10 meanings in the Avadamsaka Sutra. The number 10 represents perfection in the Avadamsaka Sutra. However, we usually explain the meaning of the sutra using the 4 words, penetrate the constant law, which is generally explained very well. Guan means to run through, and it also means to knot a garland. The Buddha's teachings are very systematic, layered, and orderly. This is the study of classification. In the later academic circles in China, there was the so-called study of chapters and sentences. In fact, the study of chapters and sentences was evolved from the study of the classification of Buddhist scriptures. Buddhism had a profound influence on the Chinese academic circles. Pinyin was also learned from the Huayan alphabet. This is the meaning of Guan. Shi means to receive, which is the meaning of the Yongquan we just talked about. The taste here is infinite and can receive people's hearts. After you come into contact with or read it, you can't stop reading it. You will be very happy. It has this power. Moreover, the flavor of the Dharma never fades, and becomes increasingly richer the deeper one goes. This is something that no other book in the world can achieve. It has such a strong power of attraction. Constant means that the theoretical methods it talks about will never change and transcend time and space. 3,000 years ago, people in ancient times achieved success by following these theories and methods. Now, 3,000 years later, modern people can also achieve success by using these methods and theories, transcending time. In ancient times, Indians were able to achieve this using this method, and now Chinese can also achieve this using this method, transcending space. A work that transcends time and space, this is the truth. Dharma means rules and regulations. If you practice according to this method, you are sure to succeed. The scriptures have 4 meanings of embracing the eternal Dharma. This is where we introduce the title of the sutra. The total title of this sutra is the Sutra of the Original Vow of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. We practice according to the theoretical methods of this classic and achieve our own Dharma of Ksitigarbha. Only with this as the foundation can all Mahayana Buddhism and Pure Land Buddhism be established. Without this foundation, I can tell you that no Buddhism can be established. All Mahayana and Pure Land teachings are built on this foundation. Without this foundation, there would be no Buddhism. This is more important than anything else. Therefore, if you truly study Buddhism and hope to achieve success in this lifetime, you must attach great importance to this method and practice it seriously. Before the ancient sage gave his lecture, he also gave some profound meanings, and the content was also very wonderful. Due to time constraints, we will omit this part, as if I have talked about it before. I don't remember if I kept any tapes, but there are a lot of things left. If I do, you can find them for reference. Next, let's look at the title of the person who translated this sutra. Translated by Siksananda, a monk from Khotan in the Tang dynasty, the translators of Buddhist scriptures are very important and they also give us confidence. The Buddhist scriptures were translated from Sanskrit in India and were spoken by Sakyamuni Buddha when he was alive. You can tell it's not fake. It's not something that was conveyed by spirit mediums or gods, because that cannot inspire faith. As for Fu Wan, I first learned about it when I was very young, probably when I was in primary school, in Fujian. I saw that the custom of Fu Wan was very popular in Fujian, and I had faith in their practice. Because the person who does the fortune telling does it on a sand table, which is also very sophisticated. Luan pen, also called Fuji or Ji pen, they carve a dragon head, and when the dragon's tongue is propped up, it becomes the pen holder. Using a small dustpan can also be decorated beautifully. Most of the people who provide spirit writing services are found on the streets as water carriers or firewood sellers. At that time, before the anti-Japanese war, most families did not have running water and had to buy water. There were people who specialized in carrying water and selling it, and these people were illiterate. There were also people who sold firewood. Since they had never been to school and could not read, they would just find them on the street and ask them for help. So we could recognize the words written on the sand table. He wrote them neatly, not sloppily at all, one stroke at a time. It would take him about half an hour to an hour to write dozens of words, and then he would write them down. I believe in that very much, because they themselves are illiterate, and they are not fixed people, so they can come to me at any time. I believe in it very much. But when I saw the spirit writing in Taiwan, I didn't believe it. Why? The person who does the spirit writing is a fixed person, and when the spirit writing board starts moving, we cannot make out a single word of what is moving inside. Moreover, he read out 1,000 or 2,000 words in half an hour, so I didn't believe it when I saw it. That one is probably fake, not real. The Buddhist scriptures were not written by the pens of ghosts and gods, but were indeed translated from Sanskrit in India. Therefore, the existence of the time when the sutra was translated, the place where it was translated, and the people who translated it are sufficient to prove its authenticity. In the title, Translator, dynasty represents time. This is the Tang dynasty, the era of the Tang dynasty. We also need to know the master who translated it. In ancient times, the translation of Buddhist scriptures was not done by one person. There were translation sites built by the state, which were the places for translating Buddhist scriptures. There are many people involved in the translation work, and the deacons are also divided into very detailed groups. The translator is the person in charge of the translation site, as if he is the dean of the Translation Institute. All these translations use his name and he is responsible, just like a leader in an organization. The work may be done by his subordinates. Many monks and lay Buddhists participated in the translation of the scriptures. After the scriptures were translated, their names were used and they took responsibility for it. Just like a government organization, all the documents and announcements issued by the head of the government, a mayor, are drafted by his secretaries, clerks, and section chiefs. He reads the announcement, stamps it, signs his name, and is responsible. We must understand this, it is not necessarily translated by him alone. This monk was from the kingdom of Khotan, which is located in present-day Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. It was a small country in the western regions during the Tang dynasty. This explains the master's hometown, where he is from, and what era he appeared in. Tang represents the era, and Khotan represents his hometown. Tripitaka Shaman represents his academic qualifications. He is usually called Master Tripitaka. Because he is polite, he does not dare to call himself master, so he calls himself shaman. Shaman is a very humble title. In today's terms, it means a student who is learning. I dare not call myself a teacher, but a student. My status is equal to everyone else. We are classmates. Tripitaka is a must-have title. If you are not proficient in Tripitaka, you are not qualified to translate the sutras. A monk who translates the sutras must be proficient in Tripitaka to be qualified to translate the sutras. He must be proficient in Tripitaka, Sutras, Vinaya, and Abhidharma. Sraman is a Sanskrit word. In ancient India, all monks were called Sraman, not necessarily Buddhists. In other religions, such as Brahmanism, Yoga, and Samkhya, as long as they become monks and practice Buddhism, they are called Ramas. After the name Sraman was introduced to China, it became a special name for Buddhist monks. Its meaning is diligently practicing precepts, concentration, and wisdom, and eliminating greed, anger, and ignorance. This is called a Sraman. This is a humble title used by the mage. Shiksananda is also a transliteration from Sanskrit, which means love to learn in Chinese. E means translation. I won't say much about it. It was Master Shiksananda who translated this sutra. The master also translated another sutra in China, which is the 80-volume Avadhamsaka Sutra that everyone recites today. The 80 volumes of the Avadhamsaka Sutra were also translated by him, so he made a great contribution to Chinese Buddhism. As we read the sutra here, we should never forget the great kindness of the person who spread the Dharma. Without his translation, we would not be able to read this sutra. Without the great masters passing this sutra down from generation to generation, we would not have the chance to see this sutra, so we should look upon the masters of all generations with a grateful heart. To be grateful, one must repay the favor. To repay the favor, one must study seriously. This is the true way to repay the fourfold favor. If one can repay the favor, one will surely be able to relieve the sufferings of the three evil paths. Therefore, repaying the favor and overcoming suffering are one and the same thing. When sentient beings see your act of repaying kindness, they will be inspired, awakened, turn back, and reform themselves, thus achieving the real effect of saving sentient beings. This sutra consists of 13 chapters in total. The first chapter is the introductory chapter, but its title is the chapter of the divine powers of the Trayastrimsa heaven. In this chapter of the sutra, the Buddha explains to us and Shakyamuni Buddha demonstrates to us how he practiced, attained enlightenment, and taught in this world, which is what is called turning the Dharma wheel and saving sentient beings. The fate of teaching sentient beings was about to come to an end, and Shakyamuni Buddha was about to pass away. Before that, he showed us how to repay his mother's kindness. We see in the scriptures that after the Buddha was born, his mother passed away. His mother was born in the Trayastrimsa heaven, so he had to go to the Trayastrimsa heaven to preach to his mother. He stayed in Trayastrimsa heaven for 3 months, preaching the Dharma to his mother, which was the Sutra of the Past Vows of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. This Dharma assembly in Tushita heaven is extremely special. The Buddha told us about the stories of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva in his past life and how he saved his mother. These are what we generally call stories. I hope that after listening to this we can be inspired to learn from and emulate Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, thus laying the foundation for Mahayana practice. This is the meaning of this chapter of the sutra. Now let's look at the scriptures. The beginning of the passage, thus have I heard. Once the Buddha was in Trayastrimsa heaven, preaching to his mother. This is a little different from other classic beginnings. Simply put, these 4 words, thus have I heard, were said by the person who compiled the sutras, Venerable Ananda. Thus, this Sutra of the original vow of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva is I. I am Venerable Ananda who calls myself that. I personally heard what the Buddha said, and it is not hearsay. Just as elderly said in the Avadamsaka Sutra, when Venerable Ananda re-explained this sutra to us, every word and sentence was as the Buddha had said and was what the Buddha had said, and he did not dare to mix the slightest bit of his own meaning into it. This is the meaning of the 4 words, thus have I heard. Once upon a time, to be honest, this time is very, very clear. It was 3 months before the Buddha passed away. But it is still better to use, at one time. At one time means a time when there is spiritual communication, when teacher and student are in harmony. So the meaning of at one time is very, very strong and very, very complete. If the year, month, day and time are recorded, this method will be considered as a past and will never come back. It is alive for a moment. It is not dead. Like the Tiantai master Jija in the past, when he was reading the Lotus Sutra, he entered into a state of meditation without realizing it. In the state of meditation, he saw Sakyamuni Buddha lecturing on Mount Vulture Peak. He sat there and listened for a while. After coming out of meditation, he told others that the Buddha was still lecturing on the Lotus Sutra at Mount Vulture Peak. It is true, just as the Buddha said in the Lotus Sutra, the appearance of the world is permanent. In modern times, Einstein also said that the past, present and future exist simultaneously. What's the problem now? The past, present and future. How to break through this time. Scientists now know that the past, present and future exist simultaneously, but they have no way to break through. If you want to break through, you can go back to the past and enter the future. In other words, you know and understand everything about the past and the future. They didn't know how to make a breakthrough, so they wanted to use scientific machinery. In fact, in Buddhism, we use meditation. The deeper your concentration, the wider the scope of your breakthrough. We can understand that Master Jija's meditation can last for more than 2,000 years. His time is about 1,400 years away from us now, and less than 2,000 years away from Sakyamuni Buddha, about 1,700 to 1,800 years. He was able to break through such a long period of time and see that the Buddha was still preaching on Mount Vulture Peak. He was able to go back to the past, as people now call it, which proves that one time has meaning. One time refers to the time when the mind is not distracted, and a single-minded focus is meditation. Why can't we go back to the past now? Unable to move forward into the future? Our minds are chaotic, with too many delusions, discriminations, and attachments, so this ability is lost. You must know that this ability is an instinct. It is something we should have. The instinct that we should have is gone now. It has been lost. Therefore, Buddhism teaches us to practice meditation, and the Pure Land method teaches us to chant the Buddha's name with a single-minded focus. You have to be single-minded. To be honest, if you can be single-minded, this will not be a problem 3,000 years ago or 3,000 years later. You will definitely know this. If you can understand the truth and keep your mind focused, you will know everything about the universe, the Dharma realm, the past and the future. Your ability will be almost the same as that of the Buddhas. So, for a while, is correct, and this is worthy of our admiration. Okay, that's all we have for today.